Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI FEST. I'm Quentin Fisher, CEO of Healthcare Analytics, and I run a company that provides AI driven healthcare operational solutions for our clients. Um, and really, I started doing this uh, when I had an epiphany that a lot of the work I was doing for some of the global Fortune 500 firms, um, I had a realization that a lot of the solutions I was building with big data, advanced analytics, machine learning, I had this realization that, hey, with some of the new tools out there, there's actually no barrier to entry, and these solutions can actually go down market a whole lot. You no longer need to be a Fortune 500 or 500 organization to afford to use these tools. They just need the right packaging and a very strong use case to drive real value. So that's kind of the story of how I started healthcare analytics. And what I think is really driving this is that we have the data. There's been a lot of big data around, but what's really changed, I think, in the last few years is three things, and I'll drill into them. One, the cloud, the capability to compute in the cloud. Two, these AI platforms make it a lot easier to build these solutions. And three, robotic process automation makes it actually a lot easier to get some of the data and actually put these solutions into operations. So let's drill into what each of these mean. So now with the cloud, small companies can actually dial up the compute and dial it right back down. No longer do you need millions of dollars of infrastructure to do some heavy calculations, right? If you have the data and you can get access to the data, you can have on-demand compute, and it's really efficient because you're only using that compute just for when you need it, right? So if you got the data, you can have unlimited access to compute. So I think that's really changing it because no longer, once again, it is really big investment, and it's really accessible to anybody. So that's one big thing. The other big thing is the access to these AI platforms. And before, it took a lot of programming, some very deep programming skills to build out some of these solutions. Now a lot of these platforms have a lot of drag and drop functionality. And yes, you need to build on top of that, but you can get a long ways with very little code, right? And it really changes the shift in your skill set from being, IT programming centric to something that, I would say is more math, statistics, and business analysis related, and of course data and analytics, right? So no longer do you have that strong programming skill set. You need to have a much more balanced skill set because these tools really help do a lot of the block and tackling, and they now allow you to focus much more on the true business or clinical issue that you're trying to solve, and really think through, what's the behavior that you're trying to model, or what scenario you're trying to model, and really think through critically the data that you have. Um, so much so that you really need to, everybody talks about big data and neural nets. So that's not real. The reality for a lot of cases, it's still machine learning, which means you typically have a constrained set of data. So you have to do a lot of feature engineering, and a lot of that is really just thinking through how do you transform these data sets into something that are more applicable to the environment that you're trying to represent through data, right? So data is the new language. So how do you then transform this raw data into something that takes it a step or two or three closer to the answer so that the machine learning doesn't have to do so much? Um, so I think, once again, these platforms are really making the access to machine learning much greater, right? And once again, the skill sets are much broader, right? And you really are actually getting a lot closer to the business or clinical issue that you're trying to model. And then finally, the third one that I think is really changing the game is RPA, robotic process automation. It can help you get a lot of data. You can grab a lot of data, but I think more importantly, lots of times when you build an algorithm, it's you get into this big long development cycle. How do you integrate this into operations? And you just it becomes 2 or 3 times longer than it takes you to actually build the model. And what you want to do with machine learning is get it into operations quickly and really try and learn, right? Because what you're going to find is a lot of the problems or situations that you thought you would come up with really aren't what happened in reality. And you can have an okay model, but with excellent execution, and you can drive real results, or you can have an amazing and an excellent model, but with very poor execution, and you're going to get a lot less results from that. So I think RPA is a really good complement to machine learning because it helps you get these models into operations. And that's when you really start learning, because you start deploying the solution, and all of a sudden you'll get people come back, well, hey, what about this? Or hey, what about that? And you're like, well, geez, I never thought about that. Let me engineer a feature that can represent that situation a bit better. So I think those are some real good examples of how the AI landscape is changing, and then how you need to change your skill set and be kind of a jack of all trades in a lot of cases to drive some real meaningful results. I do think that the market is absolutely going to explode now that the costs of these solutions are coming down. No longer do you need a massively scaled environment to justify a machine learning model. These platforms, once again, are really making the ability to build these solutions quite easy and at a relatively low cost, and actually maintain them. So we're going to see that the cost to build these and support them is a lot less, and you're going to start using them in use cases, once again, that are have lower thresholds, right? So you'll see a lot broader adoption into them. Then I think the next big thing is going to be the governance around AI, and of course with that, you're going to see we have auditors, right? When you start using these solutions, of course, it's a bit of a black box. So you need to make sure that you clearly communicate, what you're putting into these solutions. And this becomes a very active conversation with the organization. There's a lot of fear around this. So really making sure that you have the governance and then the audit ability of your AI algorithms as well, so that everybody knows kind of what's going into the solution, and then really how we're using it, the output of it as well, and that's clear and transparent. I think that's very important, so that we use these new tools and solutions the right way. So everyone, I want to congratulate you once again for coming to the session. I think this is a wonderful experience to increase your skill set in this and learn a lot about it. AI is the new electricity, right? You will look back in 10 years and wonder how we survived without it, to the extent we do. So hey, enjoy your time at the event, and once again, congratulations. You're really investing your time wisely and learning this amazing new capability and skills. Take care. Bye-bye.